Sub team. Oops, gotta hit live on here. How's everybody doing? Get us up and running. Pumped up to be back. All right. What is up? Today we are talking about how to break a trauma bond and beat anxiety. A lot of times the two are commingled. A lot of times there's anxiety that is correlated with breaking a trauma bond. I get a lot of messages about breaking trauma bonds after abusive relationships, after narcissistic relationships, after getting out of these types of patterns. What is a trauma bond? How does a trauma bond work? How do you get out of them? How do you beat the anxiety that's related to them? So we're going to be talking about that, answering questions. If you have questions, please drop them in the chat. Live on Instagram tonight too. Sometimes we do TikTok. Today we're doing Instagram. So what's up, Instagram? Happy to be on here. We'll see. If you're not on TikTok, that's cool. We're on Instagram. Fine. So first of all, what is a trauma bond? So I get asked this a lot. Or actually, I don't always get asked this, but I get told that, hey, I just broke up. I just got out of a narcissistic relationship. I got out of an emotionally abusive relationship, and I want to go back. It's been a little bit of time. I want to go back. I still think I love them. I still want them. I have a shit ton of anxiety. I don't know what to do with myself. I feel worried all day. I'm thinking about them all day. What is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. Something happened to you, but nothing is wrong with you. I promise. This is a normal. It doesn't feel normal, but it is normal neurologically. So when you're thinking about a trauma bond, what has happened to your mind and what has happened to your brain is that you essentially were addicted to this cycle of abuse and love. And so you're in a cycle of love, hope, and fear, love, hope, and fear, love, hope, and fear. So you get classically conditioned, as scary as that sounds, so classical conditioning, before I go any further. Classical conditioning, if you're thinking about that, that's Pavlov's and the dogs, right? He rings the bell and the dogs drool. Okay. And so what happens in abusive relationships and abusive cycles is that there is the love phase, which is all nice, warm, and fuzzies, lots of oxytocin, lots of dopamine, lots of serotonin, which then is followed by kind of a buildup that leads to some type of argument or giant release of adrenaline, cortisol, stress, which is the abuse that's happening, whether it's mental, physical, or emotional. And after enough time going through this cycle, because after the abuse comes the love, right? So after enough time, you get conditioned that, oh, okay, I'm being abused right now. So guess what? Love comes next, right? So the abuse becomes the bell and you start to drool, oh, I want the love. I want the oxytocin, I want the good feelings. And that's what starts to happen. So you build this addiction, it is addiction. When you look at trauma bond brains, emotional abuse brains, they look very similar to addicted brains, like to all. I don't know which of these words I can say on a live. So addiction is all I'll say. But an addicted brain, they look very similar to someone's going through emotional abuse, narcissistic abuse, these types of things. And so you are literally in a addiction withdrawal when you've broken up or you've gotten out of a emotionally abusive or narcissistic relationship like this, which leads to anxiety, right? So a huge piece of breaking a trauma bond is beating anxiety. That's why we have our anxious to action challenges that we put on every week. We've got another one starting Monday. If you haven't checked that out already, you want to check that out. It doesn't have to be a trauma bond. If you're just anxious in general, we'll still be able to help you. Check out the link in our bio. We've got one starting Monday. But we talk about this in relation to anxiety because withdrawal, right? This is an addiction cycle, an addiction circle. And so what happens is in that withdrawal phase, just like with other substances, you feel the anxiety that comes with the withdrawal symptoms. If you've ever tried to quit, again, I can't say these certain things on here, right? But if you've ever tried to quit certain drugs, I'm sure you felt caffeine, even, right? Even caffeine, you start to get a headache and you start to feel panicky a little bit. It's like, what the hell? Your chest is tight, right? That's the anxiety. That's the stuff that starts to come up. And so that is what a trauma bond is, and how anxiety is tied into that, and why it's a very, very common, correlated or co-mingled condition or something that's going on, right? And so trauma bonds can be in relation to emotional abusive relationships, narcissistic, physical abuse. It could be in relation to a lot of things. And so breaking them takes some time. You got to be gentle with yourself. When I work with people, I suggest a couple things specifically. First of all, the methods and the things that we do with people is I had Lee Human journey. I'm going through this. I had no idea the withdrawal was a thing. It is absolutely a thing. If you DM me, I can even send you pictures of your brain. Well, not literally your brain, obviously, but a trauma bonded brain and a brain that's going through addictions and different things like that. So it absolutely is the same. And not even kind of the same, literally the same. We get into a lot of that in the Anxious to Action Challenge. I kind of scare people sometimes because I'm like, yeah, like your brain could look like this and it's a little bit inflamed. And I don't mean like meningitis, encephalitis inflamed. I mean chronic stress. You've gone through something traumatic, literally traumatic, like emotional abuse is trauma. And you are now, your brain is in an inflamed state because it's been in a chronic stress state. And so it does a number on your brain just like drugs do. And so it could be kind of scary, and you definitely get that withdrawal feeling. And so what I was about to say, though, is that we work with these types of things bottom up, right? So when we work with people, when we work with our clients in the Anxious Action Challenge we do every week, link is in our bio, we talk about going bottom up. What does that mean? So there are two ways that your brain processes information, and it's really, really important that you think about this because so many people come to me after talk therapy hasn't worked, after they go to cognitive therapy and it hasn't worked, after they examine their thoughts and they're Zen Buddhist and all these things, and it's not working or helping them. Analyzing their thoughts anymore is not helping them. And that is because there's only so much top-down work you can do. Okay, so top down versus bottom up. Bottom up is when you touch a hot stove and a signal from your body shoots up your nerves through your brain to your mind. You're like, ow, that hurt. That's bottom up. Top down is you imagine biting into a lemon. And my mouth's already watering because I knew I was about to say this. But you imagine biting into a lemon and all of a sudden your mouth starts to water. So your mind sent a picture through your brain to your mouth, your body to water, to make your mouth water. That's top down. Okay, so there's top down versus bottom up. Two ways your brain processes. Top down is only about 20% of information that's coming in. So when you're processing from your mind down, that's only about 20% of the information your nervous system deals with and works with. Bottom up is the other 80%. In relation to trauma, most trauma is stored in your body. Emotions are generated and stored and felt in your body, right? And so when you are working through these things and you get stuck cognitively dissecting these things and you're only examining top down and you're not releasing these emotions bottom up, you're not able to process these things, right? So traumatic memories get stored like a shotgun in your body. Or in bottom up, so all your different senses. And so what you think about it, or how you can think about it, is like a little shotgun of all these different memories and things, these little senses in the that you remember from these traumatic moments or have in these traumatic memories. So they get stored in a scent, like a certain smell or a sight or a feeling or being around a certain type of person or being in a certain situation. You get the willies, right? Triggered. Right, that's the scientific explanation for that. And they get stored in your body all over the place. And those memories are not stored beginning, middle, end. Most memories are stored beginning, middle, end. That's why they don't become traumatic and reoccurring, right? Because you can process them and store them away into long-term memory, and it's a normal process. Like most people that jump on this will say, okay, I hopped on with Cody on this live. Cody talked on the live, and then I hopped off the live with Cody. Beginning, middle, end, right? And that will be how you remember this, right? So trauma and traumatic memories are not stored that way, right? They're stored in the body and in our senses. And so by being able to work bottom up in relation to healing a trauma bond, and especially anxiety, because anxiety is, again, generated, stored, and felt in your body. However, most people who have anxiety, me being one, I struggled with anxiety for so long, process it from their mind top down, and they're missing out on the 80% of the information coming from their body. And that's why they struggle with anxiety. So we'll get into that, talk about that a lot in the action challenge. But the when you're going bottom up and you start to work bottom up on healing a trauma bond, why that's important is because working with the body first and processing what's going in the body, you can start to release those emotions. You can start to release those memories. And if you're working with someone that can keep your nervous system down regulated, you can release those emotions, but your amygdala is not firing. So now your rational brain can process the emotion and the memory, beginning, middle, end, store that into your memory in a healthy way, and you can move past what's going on. And so that's why going bottom up is so important. And so the foundation for the bottom up methodology, you can think of it as body to brain to mind. Okay, so your mind sits in your brain sits in your body. So your body is like the soil for your brain is like the soil for your mind. And so when you're healing bottom up, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. The first 6 things that I suggest people do are all things hopefully everyone already knows, right? Do something for your mind every day. Meditation, gratitude, forgiveness, mindfulness, prayer, gratitude. I think you said that twice. It deserves to be said twice. It's so good for you. That's something for your mind every day. Sleep 7 to 8 hours, exercise, nutrition, social connection, and play. Yes, I said play. Adults are just kids wearing a costume. Take the freaking costume off. Okay, go have some fun. When was the last time you saw a young kid, a child, a blissful child on a playground, sad, anxious, right? Doesn't happen. They've got their parents around, these times, right? Because kids are playing and having fun. So play is a huge one. I digress. We can get into that another time. But those are the core foundations of healing your body and helping your body be ready to release some of these things. And as you move forward, after you've set that foundation, now you can start to release those things from your body. You're ready to go through something like in somatic experiencing or internal family systems, and some of these bottom-up methodologies that help you figure out, okay, what part of me is locked in my body, right? What part of me wants me to feel anxious or wants me to feel depressed or wants me to feel these different things. It's a lot of times a protector, and you can work with these things more than you think. And so that's the first step, is really starting to understand and get that foundation in your body. Then you can start to move top down. And that's when you really start to examine with your mind, now that you're starting to heal your body and you're starting to sit and feel your body and get back into your body. Like, when's the last time you try to feel your socks on your feet, right? Or your shirt on your chest, right? Or your pants on your legs. Get into your body, feel your body. You can tap and just start to get your body to feel again. Is huge. And then doing things again, like somatic experiencing, is huge. It's really, really good. Heal with Brit on Instagram and TikTok. She does a ton of somatic experiencing stuff. And I love her stuff. IFS is what I really focus a lot on, which is the kind of the intermingling of somatic experiencing, cognitive behavioral therapy. Is kind of in the middle, right? Because it allows you to process these things. So once you've got this body fixed, and you've got your systems or your habits, patterns, routines in those 6 areas, you're starting to get into your body more. Now you can start to examine your parts, right? So when you go into your mind, you need to start to understand that you are not one thing, right? You are multiple parts. You are made up of multiple parts. And these parts are what make you up. Parts are made in younger, when we're young, they're young people, young versions of us locked in us. And they are created in moments where we have to make a rule really quick relative to our maturity, right? So we have to become human really fast relative to how mature we are. And so while a kid is always naturally curious, they might not be after they've experienced something where they are having to, or where they're going through, they raise their hand in class and the teacher says your answer's wrong. People start making fun of them. They can't believe they asked the question. And all of a sudden the kids get made fun of and he feels shame and rejection and guilt. And it sucks, right? And so in those moments, our brains, our whole nervous system has to make a choice and has to make a rule to keep us safe, to keep the self safe. And so what we do is create these parts, right? And so these parts get split off from the self. The self is like the capital S self, the inner leader, the inner parent, if you will. And it splits off in these different parts. There are protector parts, so managers and firefighters, and then there are exiles. Exiles are like deeply traumatic and deep wounds and deep traumas. And then there are the protectors that try to keep the exiles away from the self, because your parts think that exiles and these super powerful emotions like shame and rage and terror and anxiety and abuse are going to hurt the self, and they might, and they feel that way. I don't know if you guys have had a panic attack, but I have, and it sucks. Like, you don't want to feel that, and so your parts get scared that the self can't handle what's going on. And so you create these protectors. We don't have time to dive into every single type of protector here today, and we're going live tomorrow as well, where we'll talk about specific protectors and how they work. But you have these managers and firefighters and exiles, and you need to go as the self to heal these parts, to really start to heal a trauma bond, and to really start to work through anxiety. That's a lot of what we work on with people when we go into the we go super in depth into this in the Anxious to Action Challenge. So if you haven't checked out the Anxious to Action Challenge, it's in the link in our bio. We have a challenge starting on Monday. It's going to be freaking lit. I do them every week with a private group. So check those out if you haven't already. It'll be a fun time because we go super in depth on this. But that's the big picture on how we handle and work with people who have when we work with people who are going through traumatic experiences or breaking trauma bonds or trying to beat anxiety. Those are some of the biggest things that we do. All right, Barbara on Facebook asked, how do you help people heal virtually versus in person? It's a great question. So luckily we can, thank you. I appreciate it. You're the best. Ask me any questions you guys have too. I would love to answer more questions or any questions that you guys have as you ask more. So how do you heal people virtually versus in person? So the beautiful part about this is that we can have a conversation about this, right? And we could talk. And so I can meet with somebody virtually or in person. Either one works. So we would just meet. That's what we would do, Barbara. Thank you for your question. All right, what questions do we have on Instagram? Let's see. All right, so we just talked about healing and working with anxiety. We just talked about breaking trauma bonds. We talked about the difference between going top down, bottom up. Do you guys have any questions about those things before I kind of dive back in to kind of diving in or jumping into some of these things? We talked about parts. We talked about parts and how they work. Would it be possible to have anxiety after separation from the narcissist? Not only is it possible, it is almost absolutely expected. Christina, again, after a narcissistic relationship or after breaking up with somebody in a narcissistic relationship, you may be stuck in something called a trauma bond, and breaking a trauma bond and getting out of a narcissistic relationship creates anxiety because you're addicted to the cycle of abuse that you were in, right? And so we talked about earlier, the abuse cycle that you're stuck in is love, hope, and fear, right? And so there's a love phase where things are good. The build up to the event, whatever it is, whether it's emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, whatever the type of abuse is, the bad, cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline, those bad stuff. Some peaceful period, back to love, build up, right? And you go love, hope, fear, love, hope, fear, love, hope, fear. And you get addicted to that cycle because in the love, it's oxytocin, it's dopamine, serotonin, all these happy, great chemicals, which then leads to the cortisol, norepinephrine. And so eventually it's like Pavlov and the Pavlov's dogs. You get it, the bell rings, and all of a sudden, boom, the negative cortisol abuse, you're like, oh, okay, wait, love is coming soon, right? And so you get addicted to that. So you literally get addicted to that cycle. And when you get out of that relationship, now you're outside of that dynamic. So you're not getting the same chemicals in your brain, and you are experiencing withdrawal. So the anxiety you're feeling is not uncommon. Honestly, it sucks. And I'm sorry that you're working through that, but it is absolutely a part of your healing. And so if you have any questions about that, or if you are experiencing that anxiety after separation from a narcissist, Christina, we have an Anxious Action Challenge. I highly recommend that you check out. The link is in our bio. It'd be perfect for you because we help people heal those types of things and go from anxious to action, and start to be able to recreate who they are, their identity. There's so much you got to do after abuse. So we talk about that in the Anxious Action Challenge. All right. You made me realize that I have to be connected with my body by asking myself, 100%, Bianca, no one knows your body better than you. You've been living in it for a long time. Could not agree more. That's a great realization. Thank you for sharing that. Christina, oh my God, thank you. Thank you, Christina, for being willing to answer that question. And please feel free to jump into the Anxious Action Challenge. I think it'd really help you. If you're struggling with that after abuse, I really think would help you. The link is in our bio. All right, I got another question up here. Is it possible to completely heal from a trauma bond? Yes, 100%. Done it with multiple clients, done it with multiple people in our challenges and our groups. Like privately, I've done it in groups, I've done it. Yeah, 100% you can heal from a trauma bond. It takes time. You got to be gentle with yourself, but it's a brain process. Your brain is inflamed and addicted to a cycle that it's no longer in, and you need to heal, right? It's just like you can quit smoking, you can quit the trauma bond. Quit. I'm not saying it's easy, but yes, you can completely heal from one. Have you heard of EMDR? If so, have you done it virtually? I have heard of EMDR, and yes, it can be done virtually. I don't personally do EMDR myself. We have in the company that I run, we have a specialist that does EMDR and ART, which is a faster version of EMDR, but it can be done virtually. Like as long as you can follow my finger, right? You can do EMDR, or if you can sit there and bilaterally tap yourself, you can do it over any medium, like even here, right? And you can tap yourself, so you can do EMDR virtually. All right, got some more questions on here. Yes, you helped me a lot. Hell yeah, I appreciate it. Have you talked about ADHD and RSD? Oh yes. Is getting stuck in narcissistic relationship related to these two? So kind of. So specifically ADHD and RSD, it goes back and forth, because a lot of times what happens is that people are, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I see this a lot. I don't know if you know what CPTSD is. Complex PTSD can look like ADHD at times, especially in adults, especially after abuse. Complex PTSD is different than PTSD. PTSD is like a traumatic moment. Complex PTSD is consistent abuse over time. It's more complicated than that, but that's the SparkNotes version. And so symptoms of CPTSD can start to look like ADHD a lot. And I've seen a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, counselors talk about this in relation to working with people in these groups after trauma, after abuse, and RSD and ADHD. Well, maybe not as much RSD, but ADHD get crisscrossed. I've been in survival mode for 40 plus years. When I'm dysregulated, the first signal is my body aching. I have CPTSD from abusive NPD mother. What do you think the most effective exercise is? Be mindful, Muslimah. When you say exercise, do you mean like literally like physical exercise, or are you talking more like mental exercise? Tell me what you mean by that, because I've got some ideas. I'm sorry that you've been going through that for so long. Holly, my dog down here, she's got to go outside, so she's yelling at me, of course. All right, we got another question on the Facebook. What can you do in really bad moments when suffering from trauma bond and withdraw from it? Welcome it. All right, Michelle, I know it sounds freaking crazy, but welcome it and ask it what is up. What's going on? Okay, I was working with someone last week. Let me use myself. My own anxiety. I struggle with anxiety and anxiety attacks. I could tell you guys that. So I name my anxiety, and that's a part of you. So Michelle, when this anxious part of you is coming up, and this trauma bonded part of you is coming up, it brings with it anxiety. It's trying to tell you something, and it's trying to protect you in some way. There's no bad parts. No bad parts. I've worked with tons of parts, and I've never found a bad one. There's not a bad one, right? And so it is trying to protect you in some way. And so what you can do, because anxiety sucks, it doesn't feel good, so we try to push it away. And so what happens when we start to push down anxiety, right? Guess what? It's like a child, like a toddler. Imagine a toddler that's throwing a tantrum. If you took that kid, threw it into a closet, locked the door, and ran away, that's called child abuse. That's not good. And that kid would start to yell and scream louder. That's what you're doing to that anxious part of you when you're trying to push it down and get it to go away. Right. I even had someone who named their anxiety that bitch. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's a young part of you, a young child part of you that just wants love, care, and attention. And so, Michelle, what you can do is name it. The moment you feel it in your body, drop into your body, name it, and call it out. Be like, what is up, Mamba? My anxiety's name is the Mamba. I'm in where I'm located, there's a roller coaster called the Mamba, or like really close to us. And so when you're going up a roller coaster, you feel that excitement. Your palms get sweaty, chest is tight. That's excitement on a roller coaster, but it's anxiety otherwise, right? And so I call it Mamba to remind myself that the two things are very correlated. So call it Mamba and then ask it, hey, how you doing? Where do you feel it? Drop into your body, Michelle. Where do you feel it in your body? A lot of people feel it in their chest. A lot of people feel it in the shoulders. Some people feel it in their neck. Where do you feel it? And then ask it, what do you want me to understand? What are you trying to tell me? What do you want me to know? That part of you wants to be heard, understood, and validated. Tell it it's okay to feel anxious. I understand you're scared and you're trying to tell me something. You're trying to protect me in some way. What do you need me to understand? What is your biggest fear? A crazy one you can ask. Ask that part of you how old it thinks you are. Ask that part of you how old it thinks Michelle is. And if it tells you you're younger, update it on your actual age and see how it reacts. That's a fun one. And then try to understand it. Tell it that you're there to protect it. That maybe in the past when it needed to be anxious, it doesn't need to be anymore because you've got new skills. A lot of times these part of us are 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. They learn to be anxious and be terrified and in fight or flight mode to protect us when we were young. And they don't realize, shit, I'm freaking 20, 30, 40, 50 years old now. I have new skills. I have new resources. The self parent doesn't need to run that program, that anxious program anymore. And so you can, when you talk to it and understand it, you can start to shift and change the program that it runs in those moments, and it starts to trust you itself, so you can be calm, connected, curious, compassionate, the 8 C's of self. We'll talk more about the 8 C's of self tomorrow, but does that answer your question, Michelle? I got some more questions down here. Mental and physical. Matilda, hell yeah, I had somebody named Matilda. Work with someone, you helped me a lot. Oh, that is Monica. Okay, what's up? Yeah, Monica. I work with Monica today. Thanks for sharing. I work with Monica today. Monica named her anxiety Matilda. Talk to her today. Shout out to Monica. Monica was just in one of our anxious action challenges actually as well. So thank you for jumping in to the live as well, Monica. We had a great time. That one just wrapped up. If you want to join our next Anxious Action Challenge, go to the link in my bio and sign up for Anxious Action Challenge. Okay, let's see. Okay, first signals my body is aching. I have CPTSD, abusive partner, mother. What do you think the most effective exercise? Okay, so what I just explained for Michelle would be perfect for this. Name that anxiety, feel it in your body, and start to talk to it. Instead of trying to shove it away and make it go away and say you hate it, you don't want to talk to it, welcome it, say what's up, talk to it like it's a young part of you that needs love, care, compassion, curiosity. Try to understand it and validate it. That'd be my suggestion. I just got the coolest water bottle for freaking Christmas. I put it on my wish list. This is completely random, but I'm gonna talk about it just real quick because I got it for Christmas and I didn't think that I would, but it has this little thing in the bottom and it lights up and it blinks at me when I need to drink more water. Your brain is like 80% water. When you're dehydrated, you think slower, right? And so hydration is super huge. I put it on my, oh, look, it's going right now. There you go. Did you see that? But I put it on my wish list. I was like, there's no freaking way I get this. And all of a sudden, I got it. Freaking Santa Claus. But I digress. That was completely random, but I just thought it was cool. All right. Any other questions? Thank you for your question. Michelle, thank you for your question. My dog's out here. Come here, Ollie. My dog's out here. Got to go outside. Look at this town. Come here. Say hi to the people. Do you have to go outside? Do you have to go outside? You gotta go outside? All right. We'll go outside. The hound's calling me. So we're gonna run. We're gonna take her outside. But thank you guys for hopping on here. I appreciate everybody jumping on. Thank you so much. And if you haven't already, check the Anxious Action Challenge out. Link is in my bio. We start on Monday. I'm pumped to help you all. Have a great one. All right. Thank you guys for hopping on to this live with me. Let me drop the link. People are asking for exercises. People are asking for all sorts of things. I want to drop a link for you guys to check out so that you can get answers to this stuff. Yes, there are exercises. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. I'm happy to share those. We talk about them in the Anxious Action Challenge. So it's like the #1 place that you could go to get help with those things. Michelle, you asked some more questions. I freaking love your questions. I would love to see you on Monday in our challenge. I think you'd be a great addition to the group. It's private with me. It's live. And we talk about all sorts of things you can do in relation to this stuff. My anxiety gets so bad I can't breathe with no occasion. Any words of yeah, okay, yeah, 100% Denise. Join the Anxious Action Challenge. The link is right there. Join that. And I'm absolutely down to help you. Gotta hop off here. Always gotta go outside, but thank you so much, everybody, for hopping on today.